CBS Sports has rated the Utah Utes the 4th team in the country. They have them ranked number 4 in the country, behind Alabama 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia number 3.
Georgia.
And the Utah Utes, our little Ute boys.
Yeah, up on the hill there.
Number 4 in the country, according to CBS Sports. Quite a tip of the cap to Kyle Whittingham and that program.
Yes.
And I'm interested to see how many Utah fans actually agree with them being ranked number 4. Now, obviously, you have issues. You're going to have to find a wide receiver to be your unquestioned number 1 guy. You're going to have to find linebackers that'll step up and replace a pretty darn good core of linebackers that are now in the NFL. But if I had to guess, you're going to be fine with Cam at quarterback. I think you're going to be fine. Your running game obviously is very strong. I think this defense is going to be good. I am one of the people in the camp that believe the Utah Utes have depth and strength at linebacker. And by the way, Kyle Whittingham's your head coach. You're going to be very good defensively.
Yeah.
He is a guy, obviously, that you take your life in your hands when you question his ability to build a defense. But I think one of the other questions that you have to ask here, Jake, is can the Utah Utes play their way into the Big 12?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're more than capable of it. I mean, you can go up and down the schedule, and you can look at, like, obviously everyone knows the kickoff is Florida. Everyone knows that. You got to win that game. But going through their schedule, I just don't believe they have a ton of tests, if I'm being honest. I don't think that Southern Utah is a test for Utah. San Diego State, that's probably going to be a pretty competitive game. They should roll Arizona State. You should roll Oregon State. You should roll UCLA. SC is the game of consequence, because by the time you get to SC, you should be, 6-0, I believe it is here. So, if you're 6-0 going into SC, you feel a little more comfortable about that. Now, if you're, 4-2, let's say, well, that's a must-win game for you. So I think that SC game is sort of a benchmark on the calendar. I then go forward. You should beat Washington State, Arizona, Stanford. That should be 3 wins right there. So minimum, you got 7 wins here, no problem. Then you've got Oregon. That should be an interesting game. You're in Eugene, at Autzen, like that's a tester, but that's a game I feel like they're more than capable of winning. And then you should handle Colorado. So when we talk about BYU being better than Utah, I don't quite see it. I see a schedule for Utah that, while it has tests, is more than manageable. So yes, I do think they can play their way into the Big 12. And by the way, I think they have more to play for this season than they've ever had to play for with where the Pac-12 is at and their mission to get to the Big 12. I think you have to be a one-loss team this year.
I think it's going to be very difficult for Utah to take this season a game at a time. Now, my guess also is that by the time we kick off in Florida, I think you're going to see a decision's already been made. I think the Big 12 is not going to sit here and wait for this season to play out and hope. I think the Big 12 realizes that they are teetering on extinction, maybe not as much as the Pac-12 is, but certainly the Big 12 is one big team loss away from being exactly where the Pac-12 is now.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to see that this situation probably resolves itself within the month. I would hopefully, man, it would be great to resolve itself within a week.
Yeah.
But I think when you look at Utah, yeah, I absolutely think they can play their way into the Big 12 if they get the chance to do that, because I think they're going to go down to Florida and I think they're going to stomp the Gators. I think the Utah Utes are a far better team than the Florida Gators are. I think you have stability at quarterback. You have stability on the coaching staff. You have stability on that defensive system. I think you're bringing back a running back that has proven to be more than capable of being a workhorse. Again, my biggest question is going to be, what are you going to have at wide receiver? Is there going to be one guy that's going to step up and really take the reins as your clear number 1 wide receiver? Because I think when you lose a leader in the order in the scope of a Britton Covey, somebody's got to step into that gap. Now, obviously, you have 2 tight ends in Keithy and Kincaid that likely could be playing in the NFL right now if they wanted to be there, but they've chosen to come back. And I think when you look at those 2 guys, it makes the job of the wide receiver a lot easier, because you're going to, as a defense, when you're playing the Utah Utes, you're going to have to pay attention in the middle of the field.
Yes.
And I think they're going to be monsters in the red zone, as they have been. And I think that's going to make your job, again, as a wide receiver, you're going to have more room to the pylon in the red zone. I think you're going to have more room on the outside because you have to really respect the hash if you are a defense taking on the Utah Utes. So it's going to be interesting to see who in that wide receiver room really takes a step forward. But my feeling is this Utah team is going to be much, much better. You don't have a lot of turmoil. You don't have a lot of turnover. You have more consistency and continuity on this offense than you've had. You're not going to have a quarterback situation, health be damned. You are not going to wonder who the number one quarterback is. It's Cam Rising, a guy who last year took over against San Diego State and never looked back. And the other thing he didn't do is he really didn't turn the football over, which when you look at the schedule, you have a lot of clubs that will burn you if you're going to turn the football over. And I think Cam Rising is very effective and efficient with the football, and he protects the football well. And I think when you're playing teams like USC, Lincoln Riley's defense are known to get after that ass. When you're playing teams like Florida, who's always got athletes, that's going to be a very important trait.
Yes.
So it will be interesting to see exactly how Utah comes out of this year. But I think this number 4 rating from CBS, where you are putting the Utah Utes in the same conversation as you are with two of the powerhouses of college football in Alabama and Ohio State, and in a newly arrived powerhouse in Georgia and Kirby Smart.
Yeah.
Putting the Utah Utes in that conversation, I mean, that is nothing short of spectacular, and it is nothing short of a tip of the cap.
Yeah, I think it's major respect. And I think that, again, I think the Utes deserve it. Like, I think, what football fans nationally, or like people who aren't, in the state, what they don't understand is all the adversity you went through. And I think that's part of this number 4 overall ranking in the preseason. Guys who cover, or reporters, or people who cover college football and have covered the Utes, they understand, hey man, like, this program went through huge adversity, losing teammates, like bad things happening, rumors that Witt was going to retire. Like, you had all this stuff happening, and you still got to the Rose Bowl. You still persevered. You still got the job done. So when I look at the Utes, I say, hey man, your schedule, while obviously is loaded with the Pac-12 right now, that's fine for you, because you need some of these gimmies. You need the Southern Utahs. You need the Arizona States. You need the Arizonas. Like, you need those games, because you're going to roll those teams. And I also think, as usual in college football, it's not just whether you win or lose the game. It's how you win the game. It's how you lose. So if you're rolling Stanford by 20, you're going to look pretty good. If you roll Southern Utah by 40, you're going to look pretty good. Like, that's the caliber of football that I would expect out of this program. I think there's a lot of hesitation. People think that, well, because guys, staples of last season's team are gone at multiple positions, that this team doesn't backfill, that this team can't replace those guys. What are they going to do in the slot without Britton Covey? I'm pretty sure they got a guy,
Yeah.
So that's why I say I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah, and I think in this league, if you can effectively open up the outside of the field, if you can put talented, fast, good hands guys on the sideline,
yeah,
because you run the football well, and because you have tight ends that are capable of being game breakers, which the Utes do, I think your offense has a chance to really thrive. And I think they're going to have to execute, and all of this obviously is preseason previews, and you're going to have to execute. You're going to have to come out of fall camp healthy, which, we're seeing, obviously, in the NFL. We've seen so many injuries. Tim Patrick, by the way, Utah Ute alum, tore his ACL, is out for the year, which is a real bummer, because I think he again, had a chance to have a really big year. But you got to stay healthy through fall camp, and you got to get to, you got to get to the swamp with some passion and
momentum.
Power. And yeah, I think momentum's a really good word. Come out of fall camp with momentum, and I think you're going to be in good shape, and I think they will do that.
Well, and I think the best point you made there was putting guys in position to be successful. And I think we lose sight of that in sports. Like, obviously we talk a ton of Jazz, but whether you're applying it to Donovan Mitchell and the Jazz, or the Utes, or the Cougars, or whatever, when you put guys in positions where their strengths shine, the rate of success is obviously going to go way up. And I think in college athletics specifically, you got to do that more, right? Like, give Cam some options, like run the ball, open up the passing game, and let's get going down the field. And I think that's the beautiful thing. In football, if you have a quarterback, you're always in the game. If you've got a quarterback that has control and is calm and composed and knows what he's doing out there, you're in the game. And that's what I think the Utes have now. If you can go through last season and get to the Rose Bowl, I'm pretty sure that you can be a one-loss team this year and do some good things and pave the way to get to the Big 12, without a doubt.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing is that you have the ability you have the ability to look at the future of your program and what it could be if you're the Utah Utes.
Yeah.
It'll be really interesting to me to see where this team ends up.
Yeah.
Because when you are ranked number 4 coming into the season by CBS Sports,
Yep.
that's saying something. When CBS Sports is putting you with Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia, that is a huge.
Clemson at number 5, Notre Dame at number 6.
I mean, that is a huge, huge deal. I mean,
Respect.
I think it is one of those things where you could potentially, I mean, you could have the best year you've ever had.
Yes.
I mean, it is not accidental that Utah is in that ranking. What do you ultimately think happens with Utah? Because I really think there's a lot of question about whether or not they stay or if they go.
Yeah, I think Utah goes. I think if you're Utah, you understand the landscape. You understand, that the Pac-12, while their commissioner George Klavkov is painting some rosy picture of where the conference is at. In the reality of the situation, you're not in that position. You are fighting for ad dollars. You're fighting for TV money, which you don't have and won't have this year, as the schedule on their website says Pac-12 networks. That's not good enough, bro. Like, you need better support. And so, yeah, I mean, where do they go? Where do they end up? I do think it's the Big 12 because I don't think that the Big 10 is looking for it. Obviously, you're not going to the SEC, and I think the ACC is locked. I think, nobody wants to join the ACC right now because you're committed to 2036, and it takes $500 million to leave that conference by most estimations. So where else would you go? I can tell you right now, they're not going to the Mountain West. That's a joke. That's a fantasy land, right? And we talked about that yesterday on the show. So I do think it's the Big 12. The only question that I think remains, if I'm being honest, is just the timing. As you've been saying, like, do we get an announcement before the season begins? Do we get... do we have to wait until next offseason for this announcement? I sure hope not. I would think not, right? Because these things take time and planning, and there's a lot you have to do. But yeah, I think they wind up in the Big 12, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I don't disagree. All right, let's see what everybody says about the Utes. Spencer Morgan says Keithy is Utah's number 1 wide receiver. Yeah, I would think so. But there's going to come a time where you're going to have to get the ball down the field on the boundary. I mean, like, you have to throw in this league specifically. You have to throw outside the numbers to win.
Yeah.
And I think that, Brant Keithy is a guy that is dynamic. He has multiple skills, but I also think Kincaid is just as good a receiver. I mean, I love that tandem. I love that because playing two tight ends really allows you to do so many different things.
But what opens up the middle, if we're really being honest? Because I don't want to take anything away from that tight end talent. I think Keithy is a hell of a talent, obviously. It goes without saying. But this dynamic that you can create where you have the threat of 2 tight ends, but then you've got a guy like Devon Veely or one of these guys that projects to be a wide receiver 1 out there, like, if he can have a big season and he can break out and he can be your guy that gets down the field, your tight ends are already in a better spot. You're already you got a guy that can burn the defense, that intermediate like 10 to 15, maybe 17-yard throw that you need when you're 3rd and 20 with 2 minutes left, that throw is going to be there because of guys like him. So I think, yes, Keithy, but who's going to be that wide receiver option out there that the defense has to respect?
Yeah, I think Greg Hawkins also makes a really good point. He says, we're not the 4th best team, but but with our schedule, we could end up in that spot. I would agree. I think there are some really nice built-in advantages in that schedule. I mean, obviously coming out with Florida, who I want to say is in the mid to low 20s in rankings. I think when you look at Florida, I mean, that's a team that if Florida and a win are on your schedule, if you beat Florida at Florida, that's a nice win for you. There is no question about that. The issue is you don't have a rivalry game like BYU. The issue is that you don't have you're not playing 9 great conference games. Because
Florida's at 30.
Florida's at 30. Okay, there you go. So you're not in the SEC. You're not in the Big 12 where every game's a battle, right? I mean, obviously your Oregons and your USCs, those are huge games. I mean, when you look at the Utes schedule, you have an opportunity. Their schedule's not easy by any stretch. I mean, and I see all the BYU schedule sucks. BYU's schedule does not suck. It does not. Tanner says fourth is way too high. I actually don't think it is. I mean, I
How
think,
can you say it is?
I think with the talent you lost, that would be easy to say that. You don't lose Lloyd and the kind of talent that you have on that defense. It's not easy to replace that. Their schedule is not easy.
I mean, your schedule is, your schedule. You open with South Florida. Then you're going. You're home for Baylor. You're on the road for Oregon. By the way, come out to Barbecue Pit Stop September 17th. Let's get it done. Wyoming. You're home for Wyoming the 24th. You've got Utah State coming to town the 29th. You play Notre Dame October 8th, as you all well know. And then your biggest opponent after that, you're looking at Arkansas, which is definitely not a joke. That is a quality football team. And I think Boise State. Those two are the ones that you have left. So that's why I say, is BYU's schedule as robust as Utah's? No, absolutely not. Do they have a good schedule? Yes, they do. They absolutely do. And I think they have a schedule where, conceivably, if Jaron makes good decisions and doesn't, get hurt or whatever, you could be a one-loss team. Absolutely, I think that's in the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I'll just be interested to see what guys like Vele or Ennis or, obviously Money Parks is a guy that you'd like to continue his spring. You're going to need a wide receiver to really show out. I think you're going to need one of those guys, and I think you're going to need – I don't know. Who's your go-to tight end here? Obviously, Brant Keithy's a guy that most people believe has the most talent.
Yeah.
But I think I could make a case that Dalton Kincaid is your go-to in the red zone. If memory serves, he had more touchdowns last year than Keithy did. But, either one of those guys, you're going to need one of those guys in double digits, which I think is going to be tough because they take from each other. But, man, I really feel like you have an opportunity to be special offensively, and that's not something that we've said regularly about the Utes.
Well, and where can the program go without all the adversity? If you're just focused on football the whole year, what are they capable of? And that's my thing.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe I'm completely wrong. I'm open to that. Maybe they're a 3-loss team, a 4-loss team, and they have just an average-ass, mediocre season with no, major, NY6 bowl or whatever. Maybe they don't get there. But I just think, based on what they did last year, and for those of you who are close to it, about the deaths in the program and all the things they had to go through, I just believe without that adversity this year and just focusing on execution and pushing and like Cam Rising is a perfect example. Not losing your quarterback battle in camp to some kid who quit in week 2, I think it was. Not having to go through that process. Your money. You're rolling in good to go.
Yeah, but I also look at BYU's schedule.
Yeah.
I think Utah's got a more difficult schedule. I think it's really close. We talked about this yesterday, but at South Florida, the Bulls have given BYU and others trouble.
But would you agree that's a game that BYU should win on paper? To me, I think that's a game you should win.
Should win. I don't think there's
but it's
any
not
doubt
a gimme.
about that. No. You're going to be – they're more talented offensively than they've been in a while, too. I think, obviously – you got to stay healthy. There's no doubt about that. Baylor at home on September 10th. That's a very difficult game. At Oregon on September 17th, we'll do a watch party at Barbecue Pit Stop in Lehigh. That's the day we announce the winner of the trip to Vegas. So you're opening up with USF. You're opening up with Baylor and Oregon.
Yeah.
Those are your first 3 games. Wyoming, Utah State. I don't have a real good grasp on how good. Utah State's bringing back a lot of offensive talent, but I also think BYU's secondary is going to be very good. Then you play Notre Dame and Arkansas back to back.
Good luck.
Are you serious? Like that right there. That is 5 games in the first 7 that are absolute ball breakers. And then you're at Liberty, East Carolina, at Boston State. And then your bye is November 12th.
Yeah.
That's not ideal. And I think when you're talking about strength of schedule and, hey, is schedule easy, is schedule difficult, I think having your bye on November 12th has to factor into that. Mm-hmm. You come back with Utah Tech. And then, by the way, you finish at Stanford. That is a pretty girthy schedule. For a supposed independent, that is a pretty girthy schedule. And if you look at Utah and you look at what Utah is going to bring to the yard, and you look at this conference and you look at what is on their schedule, at Florida, obviously that's a very, very important, significant game for Utah. But then you come back at Southern Utah. Okay, throw Utah Tech off the schedule. San Diego State. Okay, Baylor's better than San Diego State, right? And then at Arizona State. Arizona State should be a cakewalk. That should be a 2s and 3s game.
Arizona State is not better than Oregon.
No, they are not. No, they are not. And you're going to find that out November 19th. Oregon State at home. Oregon State's going to be good. Oregon State's going to be good. At UCLA, home for USC. That's very difficult. Bye week, October 22nd. That's a very good spot for a bye week. At Washington State. Washington State also coming off of a bye. Arizona, Stanford, at Oregon, at Colorado. And I think I can make an argument that those are two pretty similar schedules. I mean, who are the difficult games on Utah's schedule here? Florida, obviously. San Diego State, that should be a walk. You should win that game, but you don't have noodle arm quitter quarterback this year to deal with.
Yeah.
You should win that game. I'm not
true.
going to mark that down as a difficult game. I'm not. But so Florida, Oregon State, is Oregon State a difficult game?
Nah, you're at home for that.
You're at home for that. At UCLA, that's going to be a tough game. So there's two. USC, that's a tough game. At Washington State, that's a tough game. Arizona, no. Stanford,
No.
at Rice-Eccles.
No, that's a win.
I'm going to say that's a difficult game. At Oregon, difficult game, that's 6. At Colorado, Colorado's not going to be good, but that's a rivalry game, and Colorado's derailed you more than once in your life. So, I mean, I think they have equally as difficult schedules. So we can stop saying that, one is this and one is that. Ryan Buckley says preseason rankings mean nothing. They don't.
Agreed.
But it's awfully nice when you're trying to get into the Big 12 and you're ranked 4th in the country by an organization that's as respected as CBS Sports.
And I do think that it is. So to say they mean nothing, okay, maybe they don't mean nothing. I agree they're almost meaningless. I do agree with that. But I do think it's a respect play, a tip of the cap, a feather in your cap to rank the Utes number 4 in the nation. Now, they got to come out and prove that. Totally with you. But I think being ranked number 4 is better than being ranked 69th, right? So I think it's a positive.
I'm sorry, did you say 69?
Yeah, I did. Is there a problem there?
No problem at all. Ruff's official says BYU won't make the top 25 because of their schedule. We'll find out. BYU has got to stay healthy. Jaron Hall has the potential to be one of the top quarterbacks in the country.
He's got to make good choices, man.
And if Gunnar Romney stays healthy and if they run the ball effectively and your mom and your cousin, well, Zach Wilson's mom's best friend, this secondary for BYU, I think, has the potential to be much, much improved.
Yeah.
Much improved.
They need to be.
Much improved.
Yeah.
And they've got it. Listen, Jaron Hall was not healthy, but neither was that offensive line. Harris LaChance is a huge part of that offensive line. He's got to stay healthy. You've got to replace an enormous amount of production at the running back spot. I think you also have to replace a lot of production at the linebacker. I mean, are your linebackers going to stay healthy? I mean, like all of these things. And by the way, BYU, you've got to kick the football better as well. I mean, continue to excel in special teams. Kick the football better. Like it's all these little things that add up, and you've got to stay healthy. So yes. I think if BYU is healthy, I think BYU has a chance to be a 2-loss team. I think there's the one game that really worries you on the schedule is Notre Dame, because historically Notre Dame has just been so much bigger than you are.
Yeah.
But BYU is recruited better. They're much bigger than they have been. The Autzen game, it's
an important game.
It's a tough place to go.
There's no way around it. That's an important game, and I think Arkansas is crucial.
Yeah, I think you have. Well, it's at home, and I think that's homecoming that week. Like, I mean, you have to win that Arkansas game.
Yeah,
have to. Not optional. Weston Cottam says, is BYU or Utah's schedule tougher? I think it's very close. Greg Hawkins says, LOL, BYU fans, one game in 10 years, and they think it's 1984. Listen, head-to-head,
Yes.
this is not a conversation. Utah's had the best of it.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. That's why you need this on the schedule every year. How is BYU ever going to
the Big 12?
How's BYU ever going to get even? I don't know if they will. Do you guys think that Utah feels like they're above the Big 12? Their fan base certainly thinks so. I would not think they think that.
I don't look at teams as above anything. I think that it's all about, the situation. So, no, I don't think Utah's above the Big 12, mainly because the Big 12 is their only lifeline right now. Where are you going to go? You're not staying in the Pac-12, right? I mean, I guess you could, but I just don't think that that's a great play, especially, and again, let me use some nomenclature. In the climate of college football.
Nomenclature.
Yeah, in the climate of college football, Utah needs to get to the Big 12. It's time. The momentum's there. Pull the trigger. Do it. Get it done.
Talking football on Monty in the morning, courtesy of our friends at Barbecue Pit Stop. Make sure you go check them out. Logan, Lehigh, Layton, Murray, and St. George. Anything you need for smoking, whether it's rubs, sauces, equipment, accoutrements, the smoker itself, the pellets, you name it. They've got it at Barbecue Pit Stop. Check out any of their 5 Utah locations. Man, if you have a chance to go to Logan, that butcher's amazing. The funny thing is, Logan, Layton, they all have these great butcher counters now. It's
super
Barbecue
cool.
Pit Stop is picking up their game. I'm telling you.
It's literally a one-stop shop for everything that you would need in the smoking world.
Yep. Dave Johnson says, wouldn't you say Donovan Mitchell would move on in 3 years without the current roster? This is not a championship team. My feeling is he would leave. Obviously, things can change, but we need some more. We want more. Well, I also don't think they're taking this roster to camp. I'm pretty certain of that. Casey Finlinson says, Jake, Utah is going to be good, but are they good because of the talent or because of the schedule? I feel like a game between BYU and Utah this year would be a toss-up with all the talent.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I think it would be super tight. But I just look at Utah's schedule, and I just say, okay, the way the schedule flows, because I think this really matters, when your bye week is, and when you get the tough opponents versus the cakewalks. Utah's schedule is set up kind of nice, in my opinion. I think that opening with Florida, you have an opportunity there. Yeah, are they a good team? Yes. But does good team equal opportunity? Yes, it does. So if you beat Florida, you're in a great place. You're feeling awesome about yourself. So you beat Florida, let's say. Then you get three games that are all wins, in my opinion. Southern Utah, win. San Diego State, win. Or Arizona State, win. Now, the only game of question there is San Diego State. I think they deserve respect. They always make it tough on you, but I do think you're going to beat San Diego State. I don't see a game that's tough for Utah until SC. That's my opinion. I think you're going to handle Arizona State. I think you're going to handle Oregon State. Those should be wins, man. Absolutely wins. SC is the game where I say, okay, SC has a lot to play for. You've got Lincoln Riley doing his thing. They've got a lot of proving to do. They're trying to build back that program. I could see you losing that game at home, and that's when your first adversity hits of the season. You're like, damn, we lost to SC at home. They got us again. Right? That's what I think of that game. But then after SC, and again, maybe I'm way off, I don't see another challenging game until Oregon. I don't give Stanford credit. I don't give Arizona credit. Washington State tends to be kind of a pest, but you should hang with them. You should be able to handle them. So that's what I think. I think you've got Oregon, SC, and San Diego State and Florida. Those are your 4 games that are tough. But I think they're all winnable, man. All of them.
Yeah, and I also think, again, you're not going to have the offensive line issues that you have. You're not going to, you have a lot of reason to be optimistic about the offense coming out of spring.
Yeah.
I mean, again, Devon Vele is a guy that I think put on a show in spring. Him and Cam Rising clearly have chemistry.
What is Cam Rising like with expectations? Because I got news for you. It's not good enough just to come in anymore. Now you got to carry the team. Now you got to lead this team.
Yeah, we'll see. Ryan Buckley says Brant is playing wide receiver, FYI. Well, and there's been a lot of talk about Brant Keithy, how he will line up. I think you're going to see him line up in multiple spots across the formation. I mean, he'll line up tight in some situations. I think he and Kincaid will line up outside in certain situations. I think the nice thing is you have flexibility and you have the ability to move these guys around.
But I also think you can't just have those 2 guys. You can't just have
I would
Keithy
agree
and
with
Kincaid
that.
and think that is going to be good enough. Those guys are great tight ends / wide receivers, right? They can do a lot for you. But I'm just going to keep saying you need at least one guy either from the slot or truly outside wide receiver 1 who can burn the defense. Because once you have that threat, just the mere threat that they can run past you, the 10 to 15 yard intermediate opens up, and then you're cooking with gas, bro.
Greg Hawkins says BYU plays 6 G5s in an FCS team, so that's why people are saying their schedules isn't quite there. The Notre Dame, Arkansas, and Oregon games are solid, though. Well, I mean, what is San Diego State? What is Southern Utah? I mean, everybody has.
But I think.
I mean, and I wouldn't even say cupcakes, but everybody's got outs on their schedule.
I think what people are saying is that San Diego State is better than Boise State. Let's say, if you take those two, I feel like that's a fair comparison. I would take San Diego State.
You can say the same thing about Baylor.
Yeah, Baylor. I mean, Baylor is going to be better than Southern Utah.
I mean, they both play Oregon. I mean, listen, I think it just is what it is.
We got bots, bro.
We got bots.
The bot
again.
portion of the show is here.
The bot portion of the show is in the hizzy.
Wait, we have bots. Does that mean Donovan's getting traded?
I think that's exactly what that means. That Donovan is getting traded because the sex porn bot guys are here. I have reported them and moved them.
You've reported them. Excellent. Okay.
All right, let's bang through some of these comments because we got to get rolling as well. Cody Strickland says, "Are we going to war with China or what?"
Okay, we ain't here for that.
Come on, man.
Come on.
Nancy Pelosi ain't starting wars. Ramiro says, I was just happy to see BYU play with cojones in the Utah game. Their lack of man parts in that game was getting hard to watch. I agree with that. It is, let's see. Scammer Trolling says, Andy Larson is the best beat writer in the market. Maybe. It's not really our choice.
It's a matter of opinion.
Yeah, which is great. And if you read Andy, congratulations. Cody Strickland says, I just got bot sandwich with my comments, LOL, and then I removed them.
Yeah.
So it's
we
fine.
took care of them.